This is the city of Montgomery, Alabama, a town that has seen and played a part in history, a mature city. There have been many indications that the Central Business Corps has long since passed its prime, long since passed the time that it served as a strong, vibrant economic pump for the city as a whole. During the next half hour, we will probe current efforts to restore the Central Corps of Montgomery as we explore this decision for a city. Now, here's Charles Cox.
The Central Business District of Montgomery, the eventual meeting place of all people, the center of employment and retail trade, of services and professional and government offices, libraries, theaters, and cultural activities. The Central Business District should be the dynamic, diversified, and exciting nerve center of the city. But what is happening? Despite the many advantages of the Central Business District, between 1954 and 1958 in Montgomery's Central Business District, sales declined at $200,000. The population increase in the last 20 years has strained the market for adequate housing in the city, and better transportation has made the exodus to the suburban areas possible. This residential suburban growth has been accompanied by a mushrooming of shopping centers, which are competing with the Central Business District. This is not to minimize the value of these suburban centers. Its services are valuable and they're needed. This documentary, however, deals specifically with the need for a strong, dynamic Central Business Corps. Many businessmen in downtown areas have failed to keep their establishments attractive, have been lax on spending for remodeling, or have been reluctant to invest as a group or share the cost with local government in providing adequate parking facilities for the shopper. The seriousness of the deterioration of downtown is crucial because Montgomery's Central Business District alone provides a substantial portion of the city's $180 million annual assessed property tax. And at the same time, this Central District demands a relatively small portion of the city's services. In cities like Montgomery, where that revenue is dwindling, the decrease must be made up, often to a great extent, through increased taxes from suburban areas. Businessmen in downtown areas find more convenient services for their employees, a closer relationship with other companies, faster servicing of equipment, a larger source of job applicants, better mail service, and a more constant tax structure. But these advantages are meaningless if their buildings are no longer patronized. Deterioration of downtown buildings, increased automobile traffic, decreased public transportation, inadequate street patterns, heavy truck traffic, and insufficient parking all discourage the shopper. Recent moves by businesses from the downtown section of Montgomery can only be interpreted as astute businessmen fleeing an area which is not providing them with adequate business. The suburban shopping center with its convenience-type buying is not a replacement for the comparison-type buying and essential public and private services concentrated in the heart of the city. Deteriorating downtown areas, decreased valuations, lackluster shopping opportunities, all these conditions do not have to continue if local citizens, businessmen, and government leaders implement available programs of renewal and revitalization. Many cities, like Huntsville here, already are rebuilding their central business districts to meet today's and the future's needs. Much of the cost of renewal and revitalization must come from local public and private investment. However, the task is too large and too costly for local communities to undertake alone. Our federal government, through the National Housing Act of 1961, has authorized $2 billion for urban renewal, $1.4 billion for residential renewal, and $600 million for redevelopment and renewal in non-residential areas. More than 700 cities are participating in federally aided renewal programs, with over 1,300 separate projects now underway and many more in the planning stages. These cities are getting the job done through local, state, and federal cooperation with maximum citizen support. This is vitally important. Without local initiation, participation, and ultimate control over every phase and aspect of urban renewal, there can be no such program. This documentary attempts to show how urban renewal, with strong local support, can revitalize our city's downtown area and what we must do to initiate such a program. Many of the initial steps of investigation and study for our plan are already underway. One of the early leaders among Alabama cities was Florence. This is Handy Heights, one of the first projects to be completed in the entire state. It's a residential area now. Housing Authority Director in Florence is Carl Tyree, and I asked him about local cooperation.
Our public support has been tremendous here. Without it, we could not have had the success we had. Our realtors know that we are not competing with them. We are providing people, actually, customers for them by putting cash in the hands of people that live in houses that have bad title, that couldn't possibly be sold normally, and these people then go out and buy new homes. In addition to that, the public support from our city government has always been marvelous. The city has benefited tremendously, and I think that one of the basic things that we have done is to carry out the dreams and hopes of a great number of our citizens. We have today, I think, our greatest asset, the citizen support of the people of Florence and our city government.
Congress, realizing the importance of a healthy city center, as well as sound residential neighborhoods, authorized urban renewal funds for non-residential renewal as well as for residential renewal. Even with this added impetus, however, Central Business District revitalization should be considered as only a part of the total community improvement program to upgrade housing and to improve neighborhood conditions. One of the first steps in the renewal process is the preparation and undertaking by the City Commission of a workable program for community improvement. A workable program is an official plan of coordinated action for eliminating blight and combating its spread. A workable program is a requirement for receiving federal financial aid. The Montgomery City Commission is seen here in a regular meeting. The same point can also be made in the example of a private citizen applying for a bank loan. The loan officer requires an accounting of the proposed uses for the money. It must be a sound, workable program. It is nothing more nor less than would be required of a private citizen, a group of citizens, corporation, city or state government would do if they started such a program on their own. The workable program includes 6 goals: enforcement of local codes covering housing, building, plumbing, and electrical codes, and zoning and subdivision regulations. The comprehensive community plan attempts to look into the city's future growth potential by extensively analyzing the economy, population, and uses of land. This information is used to develop a plan for future compatible uses of land for construction of schools, parks, sewers, and other public improvements. A central business district study is an essential part of the total community development plan. This phase of the plan analyzes the existing uses of land as well as the transportation, parking, and traffic problems of downtown. In addition, a study is made of architectural, structural, and rehabilitation problems of individual buildings and stores. A full analysis of retail trade and economic problems is an essential part of the Central Business District study. The result of these studies provides the basis for an action program to solve the problems of the Central Business District. The Community Development Plan recommends the construction of public improvements over a 20-year period and outlines in the capital improvement budget a priority construction schedule for approximately 6 years in advance and suggests the most feasible methods of financing these proposed improvements. Projects must be coordinated with the overall community plan. The community plan guides the location of future community facilities, including schools, parks and playgrounds, water and sewer systems, development of a major thoroughfare system, and most important, the best use of all land in the community. Through the neighborhood analysis, each neighborhood in the city is studied. In addition, environmental factors which affect the neighborhood also are studied. The neighborhood analysis provides the basis for a city urban renewal program by identifying the areas requiring urban renewal treatment and determining if conservation of the area or rehabilitation of individual structures should be undertaken or if clearance is required. Here, as in every step of the project, the final decision for action is made on the local level. Urban renewal is initiated on the local government level and must be administered on the local level. In Montgomery, the City Commission appoints the Housing Authority in accordance with state law, which provides that all such local federal programs will be under local authority. A Director of Urban Renewal is hired and functions much as a Superintendent of Schools, Chief of Police, Superintendent of Recreation, or Director of Public Works. The Director of Montgomery's Urban Redevelopment Agency, or Urban Renewal, is Mrs. Elizabeth Wright. Mrs. Wright carries out the policies and directives of the Housing Authority. While some larger cities are financially able to develop full or partial planning staffs to carry out the detailed studies which are necessary, most cities, like Montgomery, look to professional planning consultants for assistance in developing sound programs. A major concern of most cities interested in renewal of the Central Business District is the ability to pay the cost of renewal. Like building dams and highways, the rebuilding of a city is a mammoth project and requires us to draw on funds which we have already paid to the federal government. In Montgomery, the sharing basis is 2/3 federal and 1/3 local, or $2 for $1. The local community, however, does not have to provide its 1/3 share for carrying out a program, all in new money. It can provide a large part of its share through public improvements, provided in connection with a project such as streets, sidewalks, curbs, street lights, sewer and water lines, a fire station, or a parking lot. These public improvements are called local non-cash grants in aid. Many types of public improvements are eligible for local non-cash grants in aid if they are necessary improvements and if they serve the project area. While every effort is made to retain business buildings that are in salvable condition and are compatible with the overall land use plan, some business buildings which are substandard must be purchased and removed if any meaningful improvements are to be made. Here is an example of private industry applying exactly the same principles in downtown Montgomery. Individual appraisals will be required for each structure, and the fair market value for land and building is offered the owner. Property acquired for redevelopment purposes is acquired through the same method used for land acquisition for highways, parks, schools, and other public purposes. Despite the outcry heard at times about urban renewal, alleging deprivation of traditional property rights, seldom are such complaints made when property is acquired for highways, sidewalks, and schools. And yet, the same methods of acquisition are used in the renewal program. It has become increasingly obvious to mayors and to city councils that to have an effective program, there must be an informed public and active, organized groups supporting the program. Ultimate success for a project depends on the degree of citizen participation a community is able to achieve. Here, the Executive Director of the Huntsville Housing Authority, Nathan Porter, is talking with a group of Montgomery business leaders who toured that city's urban renewal projects to get a personal look at one of the model communities in the state. During this meeting, Porter described the way that Huntsville's program works.
We have a hospital building authority, we have the library building authority, the municipal public building authority, and the Madison County Public Building Authority. These authorities allow the city to build these necessary municipal buildings and not affect the debt limit of the city.
The undertaking of a workable program for community improvement is step number 1 in the renewal process. Step number 2 is the preparation of the survey and planning application for a specific project. At this stage, preliminary information about the area, including the condition of buildings, streets, sidewalks, and other environmental factors, are assembled for study. If we were to obtain 2/3 of the cost from some private lending agency, the same business requirements would have to be met. It should be a measure of comfort and assurance to know that the Federal Housing Authority follows sound business procedures in the lending of our tax dollars. After agreement on the survey and planning application by the Urban Renewal Administration, the city will proceed with step number 3, preparation of the application for loan and grant of funds. At this stage, detailed studies of the project are completed and a final determination of the cost is made. Real estate appraisals of buildings to be acquired are carried out during this period. The plan proposed in the application for loan and grant must be agreed upon by the local housing authority and the city commission before application is made. Final agreement on the plan by the city cannot be given, however, until a public hearing is held in the community. Federal law requires ample notice be given of the public hearing and that it be open to all. All interested citizens are given maximum opportunity to express their likes or dislikes. Several meetings have already been held, and similar hearings are held for proposed highway changes as depicted here. And finally, the local courts protect the interest of all affected citizens. If the carrying out of a project would not be in the interest of the community, the courts can stop it. Upon agreement on the application for loan and grant of funds by the Urban Renewal Administration, the city enters into step number 4. This is project execution, rehabilitation of buildings, the actual carrying out of the public improvements in the central business district by the city, and the rehabilitation of stores by businessmen. The individual project approach is one method of attacking problems of urban blight. Perhaps the most far-reaching approach for medium-sized and large cities, however, is the Community Renewal Program, which identifies measures and evaluates the total need for renewal action in the community on a long-range basis, and relates these needs to the city's ability to carry out the proposals through scheduled projects. The Community Renewal Program could recommend treatment through the General Neighborhood Renewal Plan, as well as by individual projects. A General Neighborhood Renewal Plan is a plan for a renewal area of such size that 2 or more projects must be designated for treatment in stages over a period of not more than 10 years. Montgomery has 2 such programs. From these areas, individual projects are then selected for treatment. During the project planning stage, solutions are suggested to the various problems of traffic, transportation, and parking. Also involved here are public improvements, rehabilitation or acquisition of existing buildings, and several other factors. It is in the execution phase of the program when the proposed solutions to the problems actually are carried out. Based on exterior and interior inspections carried on by qualified analysts, certain substandard buildings are recommended for rehabilitation or for removal, and various ideas are suggested for redevelopment. In the execution phase, buildings are rehabilitated or removed, and private redevelopers rebuild according to the plan approved by the City Commission. Businesses which must move temporarily or permanently are given adequate financial assistance to defray the cost of moving. The plan provides payment for moving expenses as well as for dismantling and crating, insuring, relocating, and reinstalling personal property. Payment is also made for additional losses in the form of property because of the move. Suitable quarters are found through citizen advisory committees, the Chamber of Commerce, and local real estate firms. To further assist in the relocation process, the National Housing Act enables the Small Business Administration to make long-term, low-interest loans to those affected by the program. These low-interest loans, made in participation with banks and local insurance companies, or in some cases directly through the Small Business Administration, may be used in assisting a business in getting reestablished in a new or existing facility and may include funds for working capital. Assistance by the Small Business Administration is given in all phases, including preparation of the loan application. Information and advice on management and marketing procedures and immediate priority consideration is given the processing of these loans. Obsolete street patterns and insufficient parking are two prevalent problems. Montgomery has an overabundance of obsolete intersections and outmoded traffic movement. Plans for correcting the intersections and improving traffic flow constitute an integral part of local planning. A problem common to many downtown areas and one shared by Montgomery is one of general unattractiveness. The well-intentioned but unsuccessful attempts at beautification are sharply contrasted with the bold, imaginative ideas being carried out in other cities. The well-planned downtown shopping mall in the community is bringing the shopper back. The importance of good overall urban design has been stressed by Urban Renewal Commissioner William Slayton, who said, "Urban renewal provides an unprecedented opportunity to rebuild major parts of our cities. Well designed, these can become great assets, functionally and aesthetically. But if these areas are poorly designed, rebuilt in uninteresting and unproductive patterns, a basic purpose for the expenditure of public funds and public effort will be lost." Birmingham is living testimony to the value of urban renewal. Heavy and light industry is located in this, the Avondale project, but provision has also been made for residential use. Avondale contains elementary and high schools, a library, and a park and swimming pool. Before 1960, Avondale was considered Birmingham's second worst slum. It now contains 250 multi-unit dwellings spread over much of the district's 103 acres, in addition to 66 single-family units. Birmingham is one of the few cities in the nation which has completed all its planned projects, although others may start soon. Mayor Albert Boutwell will receive a report this year from a special committee which has been studying areas surrounding the University of Alabama's Medical Center near downtown Birmingham. Many of the additions to this growing medical center stand on ground formerly occupied by slums. 21 city blocks are now owned by the center, with the possibility of additions depending on the recommendations of the mayor's committee. Birmingham has paid its 1/3 of the medical center project through cash and municipal improvements. Conservation and rehabilitation of existing buildings is a primary concern in the renewal program. This is of particular interest in Montgomery, where numerous examples of historic architecture still exist. It is not the purpose of modernization projects to eliminate these structures, but to form a realistic plan whereby they may be part of the overall plan, where their worth may be fully realized and displayed in a manner consistent with the ever-changing face of the community. Storefront modernization is done on a voluntary basis, with advice provided by the city through local architectural guidance in the form of sketches and design ideas. Most of the rehabilitation work is done on an individual store basis, and the work done on one store many times generates interest and action among other store owners. Some progressive businessmen are moving ahead with modernization and rehabilitation, even though their businesses are not in a project area. However, the most successful approach to rehabilitation is effected when store owners join together and create an overall design. "19 Alabama communities are currently participating in the urban renewal program. These 19 cities are Auburn, Bessemer, Birmingham, Cullman, Decatur, Demopolis, Dothan, Elba, Eufaula, Fairfield, Florence, Gadsden, Guin, Huntsville, Jasper, Linden, Luverne, Mobile, Montgomery, Opelika, Ozark, Phoenix City, Pritchard, Sheffield, Sylacauga, Tuscaloosa, and Tuscumbia. These cities have 20 projects currently in the planning stage, another 17 are presently being executed, and 19 projects have been completed. Well, what is Montgomery planning? How will it use this tool called urban renewal? Here briefly are the plans. There are 2 general neighborhood renewal plans being proposed. One is downtown, the other is the West Side project. The downtown plan is bordered by Interstate Highway 65 and 85, the State Complex, the Alabama River, and the North Montgomery Industrial District. The West Side area is bordered by I-65 south of Clayton Street and north of Fairview. The downtown project will have as its primary objective revitalization, to make the logical center of the city radiate strong economic waves throughout the metropolitan area. Many local groups have attempted to attack the problem through parking, traffic movement, obsolete intersections, but the job is simply too big. The West Side project will eliminate some of the worst and most chronic slums in the city by clearance and rebuilding. It is anticipated that there will be a number of projects in each program, with completion of all to come within the 10-year deadline after approval. Well, where do all these plans stand at the present time? The local housing authority and city commission have already approved application for survey and planning in the Court Square urban renewal area within the downtown project, the approval coming in a meeting similar to the one seen here. Court Square will be the first work within that project. These original plans have been forwarded to the Regional Director, Urban Renewal Administration, Housing and Home Finance Agency. Assuming agreement on the regional level, the application will then be forwarded to Washington for the final review by the Central Office, Housing and Home Finance Agency. Assuming agreement there, application can then be made for the survey and planning monies. Many local private businessmen, along with public housing authorities, are cooperating in relocating displaced families. Montgomery has had two highly successful efforts under the Urban Renewal Program. This is the North Montgomery project, begun in mid-1953 and closed in 1963. It involved 38 acres, most of which is now in commercial or industrial lots. Streets, much more serviceable than those which existed in the area before, took 12 acres, and a new fire station occupies one area. Before redevelopment, the area brought in $2,000 in taxes to the city. Estimated taxes presently total $11,000. Houston Hills, formerly one of the worst slum areas, began to change in 1956. Now the 66-acre site includes 53 residential lots and 16 commercial lots. A church, school, and streets account for another 33 acres. Clearing away the slums also added another 12 acres of paved parking area to Crampton Bow. The tax ratio in Houston Hills is now 6 times higher than before clearance. Estimated assessments now total $33,000. David Rockefeller, president and chairman of the executive committee of the Chase Manhattan Bank in New York, had this to say in discussing urban renewal. I believe we must think in terms of the irreplaceability of the central city and its functions. If the tree is doomed to death once its core is rotten, so is the city, which is healthy only at its fringes, cannot long endure. Urban renewal is a complex undertaking and should be approached with considerable thought and sound planning. Industrial expansion in the Montgomery area, along with the development of the Alabama River as a navigable waterway, the construction of our 2 interstate highways, I-65 and 85, and the efforts to rebuild blighted areas in Montgomery through cooperation with private and public funds can ensure the continued growth of Montgomery for all its citizens in a healthy, prosperous, orderly pattern. The plans we make today will materially affect Montgomery for 100 years in the future. Such building and construction offers employment to local architects, local contractors, and local workers. This money will find its way into local stores, shops, and businesses. Such programs are tremendous pump primers to our free economy, our capitalistic business system. Such programs deserve the wholehearted support of every citizen in our community. And with such support, Montgomery will continue to grow and to prosper.
Decision for a City, a production of the WSFA TV News Bureau. Notice taken of help granted by Urban Consultants Montgomery in filming out-of-town segments of the foregoing program.